calls for pregnant parking in Brisbane. Let's have a look. Hi, and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. I am Rachel Heise. I'm Florian's wife and the other half of HeiseSays. And I remembered my Stein, because every time I do one of these I tend to forget. Don't worry, it's not coffee, it's just water. I don't do coffee. But anyway, being International Women's Day, we thought that maybe it'd be a good chance for me to get on the channel and have a bit of a rant, or just a chat. And so I found an article, and this one is, it tends to rub me up the wrong way a little bit. Please excuse the noise. I actually do have one of my little ones here. So for those of you who don't know, Florian and I, we have 5 kids. So they are quite close together. This is our youngest, Edward, and our eldest is 8 years old. So I am very familiar with being pregnant and driving places and getting car parks and going shopping. And I'm also very familiar with doing that with a couple of toddlers as well. So, there you go. Keep playing. So yeah. And anyway, this article, getting back on track. A Brisbane mum has asked Brisbane City Council to consider installing dedicated parking spaces for pregnant women at all shopping centres, hospitals and public car parking lots. So the first thing I want to point out here is Brisbane City Council dictate the number of disabled car parks you need based on a ratio depending on the type of building. If you've got a shopping centre, you need 1 per 100 or 1 per 1,000 or whatever the ratio is. The council does dictate that ratio, but they only do that for your disabled parking and service parking. So for loading docks and what kind of vehicle you need for the size of vehicle, for the size of building. They don't actually dictate what you need for pram parking, which is why you typically don't find pram parking at hospitals or public car parking lots, because they're not mandatory. They're completely optional. When you find them at shopping centres, guess what? It's marketing. It has got nothing to do with what is required by law to provide in the shopping centres. So just to start with, this is really not going to go well for this lady. Up we go. Let's do a video. So Wellington Point woman Sophie Pansky lodged a petition with council after struggling to find parking over Christmas time while heavily pregnant. Yeah, I've done that. My eldest was born in February, so I was heavily pregnant, trying to find a car park with my first baby. But you know what? It's a lot easier when you're pregnant than when you actually have the baby. So walking a little bit isn't that big deal. I was that silly person who left Christmas shopping to the very last week, and I was at Carindale and it took me 35 minutes to find a park, Mrs. Pazinski told ABC Radio Brisbane. But Carindale opened 24 hours before Christmas. You could just go at 9 o'clock at night. You could have a nap and then go later. By that stage, I was about 26 weeks pregnant. I had ligament pain, and on top of that, with the big bump, well, I was just uncomfortable. Now, to be honest, 26 weeks pregnant, you're just at the end of second trimester, and that's the sweet spot. If you think you're uncomfortable now, wait till you get to 36 weeks. Seriously, that 26 weeks, you've got a long way to go. Having to park miles and miles away, it was just a bit ridiculous trying to waddle in. Well, you can get leggings that hold your hips together, and that helps. Ms. Prazinski said some people suggested she use the allocated prams and carers parking sites, but felt uncomfortable using them when pregnant. I agree. I've never used them without having a child with me. Even though my car is full of car seats, it's really there for the women who do have a couple of kids with them and really need it. If you do park there, you get those looks from the mums who do have prams, and they might give you that look and make you feel a bit bad. Well, so you should. Dedicated parking spaces. Her petition suggested the council considered adding pregnancy parking so mothers could feel comfortable no matter what stage of their pregnancy. Ms. Prasinski said she envisaged a system where pregnant women is given a sticker for her car from the Department of Transport and Main Roads to allow her to park in dedicated bays. That is absolutely ridiculous. Can you imagine how long it would take to get the sticker and what you'd have to prove? By the time you got the sticker, you'd have the baby. She said the scheme could also support women who may be unwell during the early stages of their pregnancy, when they probably haven't announced it yet, and the last thing they want is a sticker on their car before they've told mum that they're pregnant, but are not yet showing a bump and aren't comfortable using the pram parking bays. Oh, this is ripe for people just to abuse it. You know, any woman could walk up there and say, oh, I'm 8 weeks pregnant. And how do you say, no, you're not? You just can't tell. This just seems really silly. And what about old people? What about people who struggle to walk but aren't quite disabled enough to get disabled parking? Why should a pregnant woman who's young and hopefully fit, why should they get preference over the rest of the population? You know, if you if you're a passenger and you break an arm and someone's driving you to the shops, you don't get preferential parking. Or if you break a leg or something, it just doesn't happen. Why should this be any different? Anyway, Brisbane City Council's Infrastructure Committee Chairman David McLaughlin said the council had no power to enforce parking rules at privately owned shopping centres, hospitals or sporting venues. At the council-operated car parks at King George Square and Wickham Terrace, parking for parents and carers is provided. These parking bays are labelled as reserved parking for patrons with prams. However, we have no concerns with expecting parents who are finding it difficult to navigate standard parking bays to use these bays if needed. Mr. McLaughlin and said Mrs. Pazinski's petition would be carefully considered and responded to when it closes in June. So, as you can probably tell, I'm really not a fan of this petition, because pregnant 26 weeks, going shopping at Christmas because you're disorganised and expecting preferential treatment. You compare that scenario to, I don't know, me, not last Christmas, the Christmas before, going shopping, even though I'm organised, with 4 kids, and they would have been aged 6, 4, 2, 1, and 30 weeks pregnant at the shops. And my 1 and 2-year-old had decided it was a great game to play chasey around the car in car parks. And I've got a pram to put in there, and it's just nuts. You try and manage that, it's really, really tough. And when someone parks in those pram parks who doesn't have children with them, yeah, I'm that woman giving the evil eye, because the thing with pram parking is I'm sure they're put there to mitigate liability for the shopping centres, because it's signposted well, and other drivers are actually, they slow down and they look for children, which is really helpful when you have a runner. And no matter how hard you try, you end up just having to keep those kids locked in the trolley or the pram and put them in the car one at a time so they don't bolt. And they're wider. It's great having a wider park so you can put a full trolley next to the car without scratching the one beside it or leaving it out on the driveway. So I am a fan of the pram parking when they're used for what they're for, but pregnant parking, yeah, it's just a bit entitled. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Sorry for the distraction. At least you get some little cute appeal with Edward here. Edward is 10.5 months, so he'll be 1 at Easter time. So if you like what we produce here at HeiseSays, you're welcome to support the channel. It's great just watching, liking and commenting. But if you'd like to support more, there's plenty of information in the comments below. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and we'll talk to you next time.